Hello and welcome to Words of the Wild, a podcast brought to you by the Scottish Wildlife Trust. For our new listeners and those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Ed and I will be your host for this episode. And as always, I am joined by my fantastic colleague and co-host.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel and thank you for tuning in to episode number 5. Now, I don't know about you, Ed, but I'm particularly excited for this episode as we are diving right into Scottish coasts, which personally is where I'd happily spend all of my time. So a fact that I love about our coastline here in Scotland is it includes around 800 islands and it stretches to about 11,800 kilometres. So if all those curves and creases are straightened out, essentially our coast would run all the way from Scotland to Australia, which is, I just think, is amazing. And as you can imagine, because of that, coasts are such a big part of our landscape here in Scotland, and our coasts and waters support just so many amazing creatures and so many amazing habitats that also provide, like a lot of benefit to us as well, from food to jobs to recreation and inspiration. So, Ed, what is our first feature of today?
Well, it's a really, really good one today. I caught up with Jess and Eloise from our Living Seas team, and I met them down on a beach in South Fife to have a chat about some of the work that they're doing. And it is absolutely excellent.
Oh, no.
No? Any good? So I was talking to them about some of their work. So let's go over to them now.
My name's Eloise DL and I work within the Living Seas team at the Scottish Wildlife Trust, and my role is as the Policy and Engagement Officer. One of the key parts of my work is overseeing our snorkel trail network. So we work really closely with lots of different communities all across Scotland to help get more people in the water and to make oceans more accessible for more people. So we have loads of different partners involved around our coastal communities who do loads of great marine engagement and restoration work. And one of my roles is to support them in that. So through the Snorkel Trail Network, we help get more people in the water, we connect them with work happening on the ground, or maybe I should say in the sea, and just inspire people to realise what's on our doorsteps. Every trail is so different. We have 3 trails launching this summer. We have the South Ayrshire Snorkel Trail, we have the Orkney Snorkel Trail, and we also have the Small Isles Trail. And they will be the final trails we add to our network. So that will make 13 trails, and that will be over 80 snorkel sites that we would want to highlight to people as really great places to get in the water and give snorkeling a go and see some really amazing marine life. Some people can be a little bit confused or maybe a bit alarmed by the idea of snorkeling in Scotland, and the reason for that usually is the temperature. People will be quite concerned that the water is just too cold to enjoy an activity like that. But as you well know, there's so many people getting out in the water, enjoying loads of different activities, from paddleboarding, snorkeling, kayaking, wild swimming. Especially since the pandemic, these sorts of activities have really increased in popularity. And there's such an immersive, powerful way to just get people connected to nature, Even when you get to the beach, like this beautiful stretch where we're at just now, just thinking about what's going on under the waves is incredible. So to actually get the chance to pop your head under and see the colours, the movement, the different types of marine life there, it's an incredible way to get people to open their eyes, literally, to that amazing world.
I'm Jessica Jones, I'm the Living Seas Manager at Scottish Wildlife Trust, and there's kind of a team of 3 of us that sit within the policy and advocacy team. We're in South Fife at the moment, which is actually one of the locations of one of our snorkel trail networks, and that's in collaboration with the Ecology Centre. So we have been doing a 4-day snorkel guide course, which will allow us to take 6 people per guide into the water, just to guide people around and make them feel a little bit more comfortable about being in the marine environment with a trained guide, and it's up to ISO standards. So it's very thorough training, and today we have been doing some rescue skills in the water. So we've been doing drills all day with various scenarios that would happen it's very unlikely that any of them would happen, but it does mean that we're really prepared and ready to take people into the water. We haven't seen much today because we've mainly been above water, but yesterday there was a seal popping its head up and having a look around, and we also had some really good diving gannets that were following us around, so that was really amazing to see.
There's been some in the bay today as well. The gannets have just been going at it all afternoon, and the force they hit the water is just amazing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, depending on the area in Scotland, there's really a massive amount of biodiversity out there, so I think us going up to the Snorkel in the Orkney Islands was really interesting because we have the amazing wrecks as well in terms of, you know, really good historical sites, but they also have massive sea urchins there and big areas of kelp, which are just beautiful. So yeah, there's a massive diversity of marine life out there, and I don't think we could list all of it in one podcast.
Swimming through kelp forest, for me, is just one of the most magical experiences that you could have. I never feel more immersed in nature than when I'm in the water. You know, you're literally surrounded by this other environment. Everything else just switches off in your brain, you know, all your problems, all your busy brain goings on. And yeah, it's so mindful. I find that the sea is incredible because not only can it bring peace, but it can also do the opposite and really energise you. So yeah, I would say like kelp forests are my favourite because I love to just take my time floating through, noticing all the little things that's happening in that habitat. But yeah, I definitely have had really special moments. Jess mentioned Orkney. The two of us were snorkelling around one of the wrecks at Scapa Flow at the Churchill Barriers, and that was incredible. I think we saw photos of it in advance and we thought the photos are too good to be true. Surely Photoshop has been involved in this. But I put my head under the water and I couldn't believe it. I mean, the colours and the life, and you know, the sea urchins were enormous, and the history there too. I think that's one thing that really interests me, is that cultural connection to the sea, and you know, whether it's the historic value, everything from sort of bringing in those local cultural aspects that really add to your experience.
And up there, another thing that they do have, I really like sea slugs. They don't sound very exciting, but they're very colourful. And there's one that eats the kind of algae, and then the chlorophyll, it puts it onto the top of its skin, so it's almost like a solar-powered slug, which I think is really cool. And they're very bright green and they look amazing in the water. So searching for the little things and the little details, I think, is something that's really exciting in Scottish waters, because the more you look, the more you'll see.
You know, the Trust as an organisation, you know, we've been around 60 years and we have over time built up really special relationships with lots of different communities. And as a team, we particularly work with coastal communities, and we, very much trying to understand the challenges that they face when it comes to connecting with the marine environment locally, protecting that space, managing that space. And we're really, really passionate. Being within the policy team, we're really passionate about representation within that policy sphere. We definitely try and encourage as much as possible to get communities more involved in the political conversations that are happening in Scotland with regards to protecting and managing our seas. There's quite a lot happening at the moment, not just in Scotland, but also the wider UK. And yeah, we do take a lot of responsibility on ourselves to try and make sure communities understand what's happening, that they realise the jargon and the concepts and what's being worked towards, and also not only that they understand it, but actually that they can share their own views, and those views are then passed along to policymakers to affect change. So we kind of see ourselves as a bit of a middle person in that relationship between communities and government as well.
Also, it goes the other way around as well, because each different area has different requirements and has different things going on in terms of industry that's happening over there. There might be coastal erosion, people might be more preoccupied with climate change in a certain area, or they have a really big plastic issue depending on the kind of currents and the way things are washing up. So for us, it's understanding what communities would like to learn about or to understand a bit better, and helping them with their specific issues, so it's not just a like one size fits all situation. I think in our Oceans of Value film, the community in Orkney actually highlighted 3 of the major ones that people are kind of really concerned about. Fishing did come up as a concern, and it can have a kind of impact on biodiversity, but it's kind of important to note that within the fishing community there are a lot of different types of fishing that are happening with lots of different types of equipment. So again, that's not kind of like a one-size-fits-all issue. Another thing that people really had a concern about was the amount of plastic that they're seeing washing up on their beaches, because it's a very visual issue that a lot of people can probably see on a daily basis on their local beach. Some places get it a lot more than other areas, depending on, you know, the wave direction and things like that. So that's a big concern. And then another thing is just a big concern around climate change in general and the effect that this is going to have on the way that animals are migrating, the ocean warming as well, because last year it actually hit the record since records began. And so the warming can have like big impacts on various species and cause things like ocean acidification. So there's all of those, and I think the problem with the climate change as well is that it creates a lot of eco-anxiety, but people feel quite powerless to make any actual change because it's such a big issue, and it is a global issue as well. So people can feel a little bit helpless and have a bit of eco-anxiety around climate change. And we always advocate for people writing to their local politician if they do have an issue and they are concerned about climate change, to highlight that to their local representative who should be taking that and representing you in Scottish Parliament or Parliament in England. So definitely having that voice and actually writing that letter, I don't think people realise just how powerful that is and how much change that can create, and also encouraging others to do the same.
I think people can sometimes feel a little bit intimidated by the sort of policy processes and how they can connect with that. Yeah, I would say that, you know, just as Jess said, some people might feel like, oh, you know, I'm just one person, you know, does my voice matter? But we really, really want to stress that it does. It really does. Every voice matters. I know that sounds a bit cliche, but there's so many changes happening at a really quick pace, and, you know, we really want for people to feel empowered in that space to actually affect change. So yeah, getting directly in touch with your local MSP is going to be fantastic, but also thinking about initiatives that are happening locally and how you can sort of support maybe campaigns and things like that. Yeah, and then getting in touch with organisations who are maybe doing something that you're very passionate about to find out more and support them as well. We're so fortunate to work with an incredible amount of partners who have such fantastic areas of expertise that they bring to this snorkel trail network. So since we're sitting here on the beautiful Fife coast, we definitely got to start with the Ecology Centre, who are based just up the road in Kinghorn, and they do fantastic work. As part of the Restoration Forth project, they do a lot of seagrass restoration. They have a lot of really passionate volunteers, and they do really fantastic work as part of that project. And yeah, we were just up at the centre earlier today just having a nosy around to see what's going to be happening this year. We work with people with all sorts of backgrounds. So we do have people who are, you know, outdoor activity providers who on a regular basis will take people out on guided snorkels and other coastal activities. We do also connect with other groups, like community groups as well. You know, it could be wild swim clubs, things like that. We work with local businesses as well. We definitely want to try and support sustainable tourism through the snorkel trails. So we encourage people to connect with, you know, it could be like a local hire shop to get your equipment from. We'll also point out things like local cafes and reasons to stop and enjoy an area. Visitor centres. We have partners all over. We definitely have lots of fantastic partners, not just on the mainland of Scotland, but across our islands as well. Right now we're working with the Small Isles Community Council across the Isles of Muck, Eigg, Rum and Canna, and every community is just so different. Every isle is different, and it's such a privilege actually to go into that space and to meet people who are so passionate about where they are and what they do, and to be able to help to amplify their voices and show people why that area is so special.
If anybody has gone snorkeling on our snorkel trails, we would love to hear from you. And there's a QR code on the Snorkel Trail leaflets, and we would love to hear of everybody's experiences and see exactly what they thought of the trail and what we could do to improve it and increase accessibility of the marine environment to everybody. So any tips, any suggestions, and any really good stories that you have of your snorkel experiences, we would really welcome.
If anyone feels like they would love to give it a go in terms of getting into the sea and enjoying that space, or even getting into marine policy discussions as well, if it's something that interests you, if our oceans interest you, then do it. Absolutely do it. I honestly believe you won't have any regrets, and there's something really addictive about that connection to the sea. So just find out what's happening in your area. If you're not sure where to start, do check out the trails, because we advertise local partners who are doing amazing work, and you could go out in a guided session, or you could help plant seagrass with sea wilding, or whatever it may be. There's a lot happening at a community level, which is really exciting. So there is a place for you if you want to be part of it.
A huge thank you to Jess and Eloise for having a chat there. I really enjoyed catching up with them down on a Seafield beach just on the South Fife coast. I had a really great time chatting with them. They'd just finished some snorkel training, so they're training to lead groups, actually, to take groups of people out on our network of snorkel trails that are not just in South Fife, but across the whole of Scotland, and some great opportunities. We sat kind of on the beach, we were watching gannets and terns diving. It was just a fantastic, really nice time. The way that feature sounds is exactly how you can imagine it. We were just sat on the beach having a chat. So a huge thank you to Jess and Eloise there. So as part of the Scottish Wildlife Trust's 60th anniversary celebrations, we are also running our Words of the Wild storytelling competition. We're inviting you to tell your stories of Scotland's wildlife and wild places. Whether you've witnessed a breathtaking wildlife spectacle or you've had a wildlife encounter that stopped you in your tracks, we'd love to know which words you'd use to describe these wild experiences.
That's right. So whether you've never written anything like this before or you're an avid writer, you can send up to 1,000 words of nature writing, and it can be in any form you like. So you could send us a poem, a letter, an article, or a short story, or even a song lyric if that's your jam. As long as it's connected to native Scottish wildlife, you can submit it to the competition. So entries can be fiction or non-fiction, so imagined or real, but we are looking for stories of real Scottish wildlife. So unfortunately, no stories about wild haggis or fairies, please. So we have a junior category for under 18s, and we've got an adult category for everyone over 18. And the winners will receive a great bundle of prizes. So it includes a pair of fantastic binoculars from Viking Optical, an environmental book subscription from the Main Street Trading Company. We have vouchers from NHBS, which is a super company that have a huge selection of wildlife watching and surveying equipment. And for the junior category, there's a great trail cam starter bundle, and it has everything in there that you need to get started with your wildlife watch exploring. So deadlines for entries are the 31st of August 2024, so this year. So please head over to our website. You'll find all of the details on how to submit your entry, and good luck.
Now, Rachel, our next feature is all about the Isle of Eigg, and I understand that you were visiting Eigg quite recently.
Yes. So yeah, the Isle of Eigg, I had the pleasure of going there last week. So it's an incredible island, part of the Small Isles, just off the west coast of Scotland. So cosied up in the community hall in Eigg to avoid the horrendous rain, I was joined by Scottish Wildlife Trust volunteers Annalise, Phoebe and Kathleen, as well as Ben from the International Otter Survival Fund. We had a little bit of chat about what it's like to volunteer on Eigg and some of the amazing wildlife that you can spot there. Eigg is a really unique place, and it's owned by the community, which is really different. So, I mean, there's not many kind of volunteering roles like this out there. So what's it like to just live on Eigg and volunteer here?
I'm Annalise van Eden, and I've been the long-term volunteer for the summer. And I've been here for 2 months already, and it's been amazing. It's been very unique, very different from what I was expecting. Just a beautiful place to be, and lots of different habitats and nature and stuff. So it's been amazing to get out and just do some surveying and stuff like that. So I've really enjoyed that. The previous ranger, John Chester, he's known as Birdie on the island because he's the resident birder. He started a lot of different surveys for different projects. There's the bat surveys that we do. We do lots of bird surveys, like seabird surveys and eagles. And yeah, so it's been quite interesting to get to follow and carry on those surveys.
I'm Phoebe. I am one of the short-term volunteers on Eigg. And yeah, it's been really interesting. I've only been here for 3 weeks today. So we've done so much in those 3 weeks. It's been amazing. So yeah, lots of different bird surveys. We've done butterfly transects and moth transects to monitor those populations. Yeah, shore watches, things like that. It's been so varied. We saw like 20 common dolphins off the coast.
Wow.
On Monday.
Yeah, on Monday.
2 days ago, yeah.
I came on the wrong day. Maybe I'll see one.
Yeah. And we saw some minke whale end of May, start of June. Yeah. So also coming across the bay. It was amazing. We just all sat there and just watched it for like half an hour. It was really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I'm Kathleen, also one of the short-term volunteers. We do guided walks, so it's really good to enthuse visitors about what we can see on the island. So we saw the common dolphins on one of the guided walks, which is really cool. So everyone loved it. We set up the scope, we watched them for a bit. It was good fun.
That's really lucky. I mean, I think that's just the part of wildlife watching, isn't it? That sometimes you see stuff, sometimes you don't.
You can't guarantee anything.
Yeah,
and then it makes it better when it does happen, because you're like, well, this doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, it makes it really worthwhile, doesn't it? I mean, this is, I guess, relates to today. So today we're out on an otter walk with Ben.
Hi, I'm Ben from the International Otter Survival Fund. I'm over for a few days to talk to the community and to the visitors all about otters and spread my knowledge.
But today, we weren't so lucky.
Not so lucky.
It's pretty wet and high tide, which is one of the kind of trickier times to see otters. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's better seeing them on a turning tide. I think it was low tide actually when we were there.
Oh yeah, of course.
So yeah, the turning tide is the best time to see them. So maybe with the rain and with the tide, we were a little bit unlucky today.
Yeah, but you seen some yesterday?
I seen 4 otters yesterday. Luckily enough, I seen a mother with 2 cubs, and just before I seen them, I was watching 2 bottlenose dolphins, and as I was watching them, this otter popped up right beside them. I don't think they were.
That's amazing.
I don't think they were interacting, but they were right beside each other. Something in all my time working with otters, I've never seen that.
That's really cool. Yeah. I feel like Eigg has just such a haven of wildlife and really unique experiences. I mean, coming from Glasgow, it's just amazing to have a chance to see species like that. Yeah, I think not a lot of people as well realise that you can see these kind of animals in Scotland. I mean, I was chatting to one of my friends recently and they were shocked that we had basking sharks in Scotland and Wales as well. A lot of people just don't realise.
Yeah, they've been seen off the coast here, not by us, but definitely sightings, and orcas as well.
Yeah. Oh wow.
They're around like the Mull area at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
So there's been a few people that have said that they've seen them.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen basking sharks once in my life, and it was off Flag Beach.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
The only time I've ever seen basking sharks was off Flag Beach on Eigg many years ago.
Nice.
Oh wow, I would absolutely love to see a basking shark. It's on the bucket list. Yeah. The wishful bucket list. But yeah. Egg's just so special in the sense that you really are never far from the sea and you can pretty much hear it all the time and, hear the seabirds all the time. Do you have that kind of relationship with the coast here? Do you see it in the community and is it just like really strong kind of within everyone?
I think so. There's not many spots on the island where you can't see the sea. You can, unless you're right in the centre, you can see the sea all the time.
Yeah. And you can see the kids grow up with that knowledge. Like they're all very aware of the tides, all very aware of like being safe on the rocks and things. And they sometimes, when we go on walks with them, they will tell us things, and which is amazing. It's just such a beautiful place it's quite idyllic to grow up here, I think. And the kids, you can definitely see that in the kids, their connection to nature.
Yeah.
And like everything that comes to the island has to come on a ferry. So it's like a real connection. Like you have to go to the sea to actually like be engaged with the things that are coming to the island as well. So it's, you travel on the ferry, you're like in the sea, you can see all the like Manx shearwaters that are flying. And if you're lucky, you can see the dolphins, the porpoise, maybe whales.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you've done, a bit of surveying with the volunteering. There's obviously a kind of community engagement side with the walks. Do you do any kind of hard graft, any kind of practical conservation tasks as well?
We've been doing a lot of bracken bashing recently. The bracken is sometimes like up to your head. We've been doing that. There's a community woodland here where they've like planted native trees. So we have to like go and make sure, because they're so small, that the bracken doesn't like overwhelm them and shade them out. And then we'll be doing a lot of like path clearing and style repair, bridging.
Yeah, because things get a bit eaten away here, at the sea. So there'll be more logs and things put out to make the roads, paths safer for people.
Yeah, we're waiting on an order of wood at the moment to get working on some of the small bridges and things, paths. So yeah, that will be part of our work. It's really varied and good fun.
Yeah. Although it's raining right now, so.
Yeah, I feel like it might pick up in the audio when there was that really like loud downpour. But it just adds to the atmosphere of it, At least we're cosy with a cup of coffee. Yeah.
A huge thank you to our speakers there. And Rachel, I'm absolutely intrigued. I've always wanted to visit the Isle of Eigg. What was it like? Because you stayed there for a few days. What was it like staying out there?
It was quite surreal and quite a whirlwind. I mean, 1 minute it would be absolutely torrential rain, and then the next there would be a rainbow and the sun would be shining. But it's fantastic. I mean, I was really lucky to time my trip with Ben from the International Otter Survival Fund, which are based in Skye. So he was on the island running like a few otter walks and talks. So literally just before we sat down to talk with the volunteers, we were out by the coast looking for otters. And actually, instead of finding any, I just got absolutely drenched. But it was still great. And we saw signs of otters. And I think basically the day before, Ben had spotted a mother and two young pups, which was really cool. I was just unlucky that I just got the rain. But I mean, it's just such an incredible island and a really unique experience. I mean, I've never been anywhere before that, there's very, very few cars, there's no public transport, and I can't just describe how tranquil and peaceful it was. I mean, so I was wild camping, which was amazing, but with that torrential rain, tricky at times. But basically I woke up and all I could hear was, the sound of oyster catchers and the waves, and it was just unreal. And it was just, like I say, it was so peaceful. And just so refreshing. I mean, it's a culture shock for me living in the city centre of Glasgow and hearing sirens every 2 minutes to, just waking up on the island with just nothing but nature sounds. It was, very, very special. And I mean, like we're about to hear, it's got such a strong sense of community. And the island is just super special. And there's so many layers to it as well that I was learning. I mean, they've got this massive tree nursery on the island. They're not actually connected to the national grid. And, most of their energy is all renewable and produced on the island, which I just thought was super cool. Yeah, it's just a fantastic place. And I would recommend absolutely anyone to go. It's great.
It sounds like an absolutely fantastic place. And of course, some 27 years ago, the island was bought by the community. So the whole island is now owned and managed by the people who live there, which is incredible, really. And the Scottish Wildlife Trust were heavily involved in the community campaign to buy the island way back in the 1990s. In fact, put an appeal out to all Wildlife Trust members, which helped bring in tens of thousands of pounds. And we continue to be involved in Eigg today. The Scottish Wildlife Trust play a role in the Isle of Eigg Heritage Trust Board, and we work with the community out there. So we're going to hear now from Nora Barnes, who is the Scottish Wildlife Trust's seasonal ranger on Eigg, as well as from Maggie Fife from the Isle of Eigg Heritage Trust, who was involved in the community buyout.
My name's Nora. I work for Scottish Wildlife Trust in the summer as the wildlife ranger. We're at the harbour here where the ferry comes in, and this is where we have our cafe and shop and visitor facilities. You always hear the sea wherever you are on Eigg. You'll hear the waves and bird calls. Particularly with birds, you'll often hear them first before you see them. You'll hear oyster catchers and curlews. There, I think I can... Yeah, there's a curlew in the distance there. Curlew, curlew. Eigg is one of 4 islands that make up the small isles, or the inner isles it's called sometimes. We're near Skye on the west coast of Scotland. The island is very special because we own the island ourselves. It's a community-owned island, and it was one of the first community-owned buyouts in Scotland. It used to formerly was owned by one person who was an absentee landlord a lot of the time, wasn't here all the time. So people wanted to take charge of their own lives, and so there was a big campaign to raise money to buy the island for the islanders themselves, and that was 27 years ago now, and the island has grown and developed and is thriving since then. This is Galmasdale Bay in front of us, and at high tide this fills right up and then empties right out and reveals a sandy, muddy bay where there's lots of waders, oyster catchers and curlews. We've also got, looking further afield, lovely woodland here. People are often surprised that there's so much woodland on Eigg. Some of it's native woodland, some of it's been planted, but this is nice old hazel woodland around us here. See, the tide's going out, just beginning to go out now. It's kind of that mud flat there, and you'll start to see birds landing there and looking for food. Oh, there's an oyster catcher and a red shank with bright red legs. So they're just coming in now. The best people to talk to about the buyout are the people that were here and living through it and organising the campaign. One of those people was Maggie.
My name's Maggie Five, and I've lived on Eigg now for 40 odd years, and I currently work as Trust Admin Secretary. The buyout was a long time in the making, really, and a long time before folk here had the confidence to actually go for it. But the main sort of reasons was just a lack of development here, landlord not granting leases for people's houses and businesses. That was really the crux of it. And what really finished the whole thing off was when eviction notices were taken out on 2 households. And that really upset the community considerably. It did feel like a David and Goliath situation. We'd already done a lot of looking into how we might set up something ourselves. We were in touch with an amazing lawyer who's no longer with us, unfortunately, Simon Fraser. He helped us put together a legal framework which involved the residents, the Scottish Wildlife Trust and the Highland Council. Those are the 3 members of the Isle of Eigg Heritage Trust. And we went on from there. We launched a fundraising appeal. We applied for lottery money, which we didn't get. And what saved the day, really, was a mysterious, anonymous benefactress who started off with a donation of £500,000. And when she heard that we'd been turned down by the lottery, she raised a donation, in effect, to £1 million. And that was when we put in the first offer. There was a closing date on the sale. We put in the first offer of 1.2 million, which was all the money we had. And it was also an independent valuation that we'd had done. You know, it was based on that. And that was rejected because it didn't reach the asking price of £2 million. And then we carried on fundraising for a few months longer. And it was at that point we upped our offer to 1.5 million. And we kept that a secret from everybody, including everybody on the island, because we didn't want anybody to sort of suss out what we were up to and up their bid. I mean, that week was probably the longest week of my life. It was totally nerve-wracking. And eventually, on the 4th of April, 1997, our offer was accepted and we became owners of Eigg.
One thing we always found important was to celebrate your successes as well, because, you know, it's never easy organising community projects. You'll have ups and downs. but it's make sure you celebrate together. That really helps you to grow your project and grow your community as well.
Well, a huge thank you to Nora there for that insight into the community buyout of the Isle of Eigg. If you want to go and visit and experience the Isle of Eigg for yourself, you are more than welcome to do so. I'd highly recommend checking out the Isle of Eigg Heritage Trust website. And of course, throughout summer, Nora, our seasonal ranger out on Eigg, runs guided wildlife walks across the island to see what you can find and explore some of the island's fantastic wildlife. There is also some exciting things coming up by way of snorkel trails. Our Living Seas team, who we've just heard from earlier in this episode, are just very, very close to launching the Small Isles Snorkel Trail, which includes the Isle of Eigg, as well as Canna, Rum, and the Isle of Muck as well. So watch this space. It's not launched just yet, but do watch this space. It'll be coming out very, very soon. And that is going to be a really, really exciting opportunity. So keep an eye on our social media and our website for more about that.
Very exciting. I wish the weather had been good enough for me to get in the water, but sadly not. But I'll definitely be trying out on one of the other snorkel trails when I can.
Yeah, definitely.
So we are now travelling from the west coast to the east coast, and we're off to Montrose Basin. Montrose Basin is an enclosed estuary of the river South Esk, and it's a trust reserve and a fantastic visitor centre. So yeah, we're joined by Joanna, Alison and Laura to hear a little bit more about Montrose.
Hello, I'm Laura Young, and I'm one of the young leaders with the Scottish Wildlife Trust.
Hi, I'm Joanna Peaker. I'm the Visitor Centre Site Manager at Montrose Basin.
Hi, I'm Alison O'Hara. I'm the lead teacher naturalist for the Scottish Wildlife Trust at Montrose Basin Visitor Centre.
So we're going to be walking out to the Shelduck Hide first. We're then going to walk onto the mudflats. We're not going to do the full walk out into the middle of the basin, which we do for different events. Yeah. It's amazing being on the estuary itself and just having an uninterrupted view of the whole of the basin. Osprey. There's an osprey hovering out that way. So there's a large bird of prey getting quite high up, yeah.
Is that a quite distinct hover that it does?
Yeah, it's the way they hover over water bodies, but they also kind of dangle their legs at the same time. It's just a very specific kind of hover. Here's a lapwing flying past as well. Shall we have a look in the hide while we're here?
Oh, wow. Okay. Pull up a pew. Right, what can we see?
Little ducklings there.
Some swans.
Yeah, there's merganser or goosander ducklings.
Oh yeah.
So when I started at the basin, I thought I would, like the day after doing my first day of volunteering, just look at the different walks so I knew where they all were. So I went to the lurgies, and then as soon as we got out of the car and went up the path, we were like, oh look, there's some otters playing in the river. It was so exciting. And then I came into work the next day and just said, oh, and that's so great, I saw the otters. And Alison was like, you what? That doesn't usually happen.
So here we are, on the edge of the mud.
On the edge of the mud, we made it. Yeah.
So I guess that's one of the questions. What makes this place so special?
It's almost unique in the fact that it's such an enclosed intertidal estuary. So the tides coming in and out look more extreme because of how enclosed it is. And then that makes it really great for wildlife because there's so much food that washes in and out of the tide with the tide, yeah. Would you add anything special about the basin, Alison?
It's just the best place. It's always changing. There's always something new to see. And that's probably why I've worked there for such a long time. There's days that are overcast, there's days that are wonderfully sunny, there's the tide coming and going. You think you've seen everything, and then the tide's higher than it's ever been, or it's lower than it's ever been in your mind. You see something you've never seen before. It attracts all kinds of wildlife, and yeah, it's just a fabulous place to work, hang out,
It's
go
one
for
of like
walks.
such a common comment from visitors at the centre when they see that we work there. They're like, wow, you're so lucky to work in this building, which we really are. And it's the fact that you can get distracted by the view because it's constantly changing, not only throughout the year, but throughout the day. Because, you know, the tide's coming in and then suddenly the seals have swum away.
And what are some of the coolest things you've seen? Or things that stick out?
I love it when we see a spoonbill. We sort of get a visit once a year or every couple of years from a couple of spoonbill, and they're very cool to watch.
There was one year those spoonbills were around when the geese had just migrated in. So there's these really cool photos that a local photographer sent us of spoonbills with all the thousands of pink-footed geese in the background. And we're like, are those species supposed to meet? Are they looking at each other like, who are you? It was very cool.
There was the year that we had the bittern in the area in front of the visitor centre. I think that was 2016, and it was there in the winter. And we have some lovely footage of it basically ice skating across the pools in its sort of hunched way going along like this. But that was very cool. I'm not a birder. I hadn't realised how rare they were in Scotland, and so many people came to see it, but it was so difficult to see. It was so well camouflaged. But I was very lucky and I saw it loads because I was working at the visitor centre.
And then there's stuff that we see all the time that's special every time. So I mean, we've seen an osprey today, but it's always exciting to see an osprey. And when you get to see them dive into the basin, it's just so magical. And then anything that visitors are excited to see, we're just really happy to be able to show them it. So that can be eider ducks, which we're so used to now, tree sparrows. And then we see kingfisher all the time in the autumn and winter from the visitor centre. So that's always super special, being able to show people their first kingfisher if they've never seen one before. It's great. And they're not even just zipping past. We're like, there it is, it's on a perch for you. You can set up the telescope on the kingfisher for them. And you're like, there you go. I've given you your kingfisher. This feels really nice.
Yeah, often people have say they've seen a kingfisher, but it was just a fleeting glimpse on a canal or something. And we're in a fortunate position to be able to say, you might be able to see one just here, and it will just stay there for maybe an hour, just catching lots and lots of little fish, which is really lovely. So we wouldn't normally recommend people coming out on the mud. Certainly don't ever do it on your own. This obviously looked at a drier part than that bit that we just trailed through. Usually you can tell the really shiny mud tends to be the really sticky mud. I think back when Karen was a ranger, there was a chap from St Andrews University who did some research, and he just got stuck in the mud every time he came because he stood in it for too long looking at his samples, and then he would phone and say, I'm stuck again.
Come and rescue me.
Yeah, there have been studies on the mud, on the different creatures that you find in the mud, but nothing recent. So all the numbers that we've got are pretty old, but 360,000 hydrobia snails in a square metre of mud, which seems phenomenal, but that feeds all the shell duck. Yeah. They eat these minuscule snails, which are the kind that make these little pinprick holes. It would be spectacular if I found one straight away.
Is that swallows or sand martins?
Sand martins.
See
the wee white belly.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. This is where they're hanging out, not in our habitat.
They've been on the beach at North Montrose.
Yeah, they're all over the place, just not in our habitat.
Not in the
that we built.
The specially built San Martin nesting boxes.
No.
How rude.
Fine. I know, but I'm glad they're happy elsewhere. That's fine.
Sparrow nest.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, never mind. And we haven't talked much about the geese.
We haven't.
So the pink-footed geese were internationally important for pink-footed geese, and they arrive in mid-September, and we can get, by early October, up to 80,000 pink-footed geese on a fairly normal year. But that's a snapshot because they use us as a stop-off point as they head further down to Norfolk, is where most of them end up. We definitely get over 100,000 at least that pass through Montrose Basin on their migration from Iceland and Greenland. And then it's amazing because you get to watch them all take off at sunrise in the morning to feed in fields, and then they all come back en masse in the evenings at sunset. So that's magical. And then, at that time of year, there would be loads of pink-footed goose feathers all out on the mudflats because they use it to roost on. So it changes the look of the basin as well, and the sound of it.
So a big thank you for Laura, Joanna and Alison for that. I mean, I felt listening to that I was there. I love Joanna shouting, "Osprey!" And I felt like I was almost like looking for it. I was like, oh, it was great. I mean, Montrose Basin is one of my favourite trust sites to visit. I mean, don't tell the others, but I actually love it. And, whenever I run a volunteer day there, I always need to incorporate time for people to sit and enjoy the view of the basin. So if you haven't been before, the visitor centre has these massive kind of panoramic windows and binoculars and just a fantastic view. And, you can sit there looking at a kingfisher or an osprey and suddenly it's been half an hour. It's just, it's a fantastic sight. And I recommend absolutely anyone to go when you get the chance.
Absolutely. It's like you say, Rachel, definitely one of my favourite spots, I think. And those windows are fantastic to just sit in the visitor centre and you can be sat having a cup of tea, watching all sorts of stuff happen out on the basin. It was really unique. On the day we walked out to the mudflats, which it's not recommended that you do on your own. But if you do want to go and have a look, then I'd highly recommend booking onto one of the guided walks that the team at Montrose run. The views from the mudflats right out on the basin were completely different, and it's multiple different landscapes and habitats that we walked through before we reached the edge of the mud, which sounds quite dramatic. It was fantastic being there, and we had to wait for the tide to go all the way out, and it was just great to see a completely different perspective on the site and the area, really. And we saw loads of stuff. It was absolutely teeming with wildlife. On the walk out, we walked through some fields and we were hearing yellowhammers, and there was sand martins and swifts flying about. And as we got closer to the water, there was the osprey. And then again, as we neared the estuary and the mudflats themselves, we saw huge numbers of eider duck eggs. And then out on the mud as well, there was all sorts of stuff there as well. So I had a really, really crabulous time. These don't get any better. I'm really sorry. But I had a fantastic time over at Montrose. So a huge thank you to the team there.
Fantastic. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening to episode 5. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to let us know what you think of the podcast, we would love to hear it. So you can get in touch with us via social media, or you can email us at communications@scottishwildlifetrust.org.uk.
Thank you very much for joining us for episode 5. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. One last pun there for the road.
Oh, that was quite a good one.
Thanks. I've been working on these for weeks now, so hopefully everyone enjoys them. But they have got the seal of approval from our Living Seas team. I'll stop now. I've got no more. I've run out.
Yeah, I think it's time to call it a day. Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully you can join us next week for more Words of the Wild.